Welcome, everyone, and it's October, and you know what that means. It's a time when we like to celebrate Italian Heritage Month. And guess what? Wouldn't it be crazy? But we actually found a place that celebrates Italian Heritage Day. We're going to be talking about that this week on this week's episode of the State of Greater Western New York Report. As always, it's brought to you by those fine people at...
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard.
The Menden Honey Falls Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history.
Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. Join us each episode as we discuss fantastic topics ranging from history to science to the strange and the wonderful, as well as the treasured spirit with which our region has infused America. We challenge you to consider all things Greater Western New York, from our region's very beginnings to how it inspires, how it empowers, and why it is so admired. Here's the host of the State of Greater Western New York Report, Chris Carosa. Hey, welcome, everyone, and we've got a cornucopia of guests today to tell us all about Italian Heritage Day that's being held in Rochester, coming up pretty soon. We'll give you the details in a moment. But first, let's talk to a couple of people there. Maybe we'll have a third guest coming in, but let's have them introduce themselves first. Kathy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got involved in the this whole effort?
Thank you, Chris, and thank you so much for having us on. We are in the throes of putting together, which is something that which has really been a dream come true. I went to graduate school in the 90s to learn about intercultural relations, and there I was learning a lot about culture in many forms and how cultures get along or don't get along. And so while I was there, I did a lot of study, and I realized how much I still needed to know about my culture and also my culture's impact on other cultures. And two important things stood out to me. One was understanding nativism and eugenics, which I didn't know when I was growing up, and how much those have impacted the way I was treated and discriminated against throughout my life. I didn't have names for them, but that was it. And then also the way that we kind of became a partner in discrimination against Indigenous people. And I learned a lot about their history, particularly about boarding schools and what was done to the Indigenous people in boarding schools. So those two things came together at the same time. Fast forward my life and began to just think I have to do something about both of these things. So I went to Sicily. I lived in Sicily. I'm learning Italian. I love my culture. Everything about it just brings me incredible joy. I go back almost every year. I have lots of friends there now. And so my feeling was, gee, I really want to celebrate this and celebrate it fully and beautifully with all the aspects of the culture, not just the one day that we were given, which was Columbus Day. So that is kind of a quickie version of how this came to be, to have a day. And the city proclaimed the first Sunday of October to be Italian Heritage Day in Rochester.
Well, yeah.
So that's that.
We definitely applaud that effort. Now let's stretch it out for the whole month. So that's Jordyn, tell us a little bit about...
Yes, we want that too.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Oh, by the way, Kathy, before we break away from you, just tell us what part of Italy your family's from.
So I am 100% Sicilian. I say that very proudly. I love that island. There is so much about it that is beautiful. My two grandmothers are from the same village, Serra de Falco, which is in the Caltanissetta region, and Caltanissetta is the sister city to Rochester. My mother's father, was just a few, like one town over, Montedoro, Mountain of Gold it means, and that's where I lived, in his village. My other grandfather was on the coast, San Stefano di Camastra, and I spent quite a bit of time there as well.
So just in terms of full
That's where we're
disclosure,
from.
and we didn't know this before we started, but apparently Kathy and I are paisans since my grandfather also comes from Serra de Felco. So, Jordyn, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in this effort.
Awesome, thank you. So, I recently graduated from Nazareth University. I was a public history student, and my last year there, I picked up an Italian minor after meeting the new Italian professor and just becoming more interested in learning more about Italian history and also how it connects to my identity, as I'm Italian through my mom's side, specifically like southern Italy and small villages outside of Napoli. Um, and so I was introduced to Chaffee and Cugini di ROC through my mother. She is involved. I probably joined about a year ago at last Italian Heritage Day, and I thought it was a cool way to connect more with the Italian and Italian American community in Rochester. And I also thought that Cugini di ROC was special because of their relationship and collaboration with Indigenous Peoples Day Committee. So that's how I became involved. And yeah, I'm excited to continue learning more about the community and making more connections.
Thank you, Jordyn. Now, what part of, don't tell me that your family's from Acadia outside of Naples.
No, not that I know of.
So we're not paisans, but that's okay. We like you anyway.
Thank you.
Explain the name of the organization, because we have people on here who I don't believe are of Italian heritage. They may not know Italian. So what does Cugini di ROC mean? Either one of you guys can answer.
It means cousins
Jordyn.
of Rochester.
Right.
Cugini is cousins of Rochester, and I think Kathy, if you want to talk a little more about it, but with our logo, we kind of just want to display how we're like a community effort, a group effort, and bringing people together. Because the Rochester community does have a very multicultural Italian American community. So,
Kathy, why don't you explain what the logo is? I'll pop it up on the screen here.
Love this logo. So when we formed, and I just need to say that after working with Indigenous people a bit, the Italians in our lives started to come together to support them, but also realize we needed our own conversation. So we had conversation circles. It was during COVID, so they were all on Zoom. And we decided after those conversation circles to talking to each other about what we wanted, we formed a group, and that's Cugini di ROC. And then we needed a logo. So my son-in-law was actually here from Brazil, stuck here during COVID. So he's an artist. And I said, please design something. This is what I said. I love the idea of a circle because it's continuous, it's partnership. And so he designed this, which also to me is very relational, and that's who we are. We do things in a very caring, loving way. We're multi-age. We have working agreements that we share at every meeting, and we work in partnership. So that's kind of conveyed here in this logo, and then of course our Italian colors.
That's right. The flag of Italy has red, green, and white. And a lot of times I think of Christmas when I see that too, or maybe when I have all the Christmas decorations, I think of Italy. Who knows? But how like extensive is this group? It like you say, it formed a few years ago, but I think that it's kind of growing in the sense of who is becoming involved. Tell us a little bit about that and how people can find out more about it. Kathy, why don't you go ahead and take this one?
Well, what has brought the greatest joy is how many people of Italian descent are finding each other and finding us. And they are coming on and they're bringing time, skills, money, connections. We have a large list of co-sponsorship. If you look at our website, it's rockitalians.org. I invite you, I don't know if I could list everybody. Here's some top ones that we have. We have both Nazareth University, where Jordyn went to school. They have Casa Italiana there, where they have language classes and events, all centered on Italian culture. And they are a part of us. We also have RIT's Language and Culture Program, and that's directed by Elisabetta Demanda, and Joelle Carota is the director of the Casa Italiana. So I see you brought up our webpage. So if you go to this on the top where it says support, press that button and you will see all of our co-sponsors on that page. It's growing every day. Of course, the city is always our co-sponsor because they give us the market, and they also give us lots of other things that support the event, like printing and all of that. You can see that Indigenous Peoples Day Committee is also a co-sponsor, Southeast Area Coalition. We have free interpreters from the ASL and interpreting program at RIT. As I said, Frank Domino's Casa Italiana is a sponsor, Visit Rochester. The Gandhi Institute has been our fiscal sponsor. Wegmans comes in to sponsor us every year. Cooperative Extension. I mean, this is a huge community-sponsored thing. The individual sponsors, Dr. Valenti and John Nympho, have been wonderful donors to the event. We also have some other donors who are anonymous right now, but they've come in. I want to also highlight that down below is Italian Women's Civic Club. So we are so excited to have them. This is our first year to get that partnership going, and we love that idea. I used to be a member there. Some of our Cugini di ROC women are also in that club. So that has been wonderful to have them on board. And they're going to have a booth at our event where they'll table and tell more about their club.
All right.
So those are the sponsors. Was there another part to that question?
No, let's have Jordyn take a stab at something now. So Jordyn, you represent, say, the emerging generation, we'll call it, youngest generation, whatever it is that how you identify yourself. But you're going to have a different perspective than Kathy. Tell us from your generational standpoint what it means to be Italian and be involved in a group that celebrates the Italian American culture.
Okay, well, for me, I guess what it means to be Italian, that's just how I grew up with my family. Like, family means everything to me. I feel like a value passed down from my mom's side of the family. And I guess, like, in the past few years, I've been learning more about, like, Italian history, like the multilingual, multicultural aspects of Italian history at my time at Nazareth. So I think for me, it's just exciting to make connections with people in Rochester because there's so many, like, different stories and perspectives of the Italian American community here in Rochester and connections still in Italy. So I don't know, for me, I just really like connecting with people, and we might talk a little bit more about the oral history project that's part of Italian Heritage Day. I worked on that as a student at Nazareth, so it's about, like, telling everyday people's stories. So I think that's really important, preserving and listening to everyday stories that are not often told or known in our society. So I'm really excited for that, just to learn more about everyday people history.
That's a good point. The whole sense of telling people's stories from a historian standpoint, that really gets to a lot of, say, important data. So if you're a historian, what you want to do is you want to collect data on what's going on in the culture, in the time, not just the culture, but in the time that you're looking at. And a historian will have to refer to existing stories or existing data that provides that information. Right now, what are you limited to? You're limited to writing, people's writings or old writings, newspapers, books, things like that. If you can find a treasure trove, this is considered a treasure trove at least,
a memoir, a family history. So it's the family telling their own story. Undoubtedly, they will not only tell the story of the family, but interwoven in that story is also the story of the time in which they live. And it's really hard for people today to imagine, say, what life was like in Western New York, say, 200 years ago. Western New York was still a wilderness. We don't imagine that. Cities like Rochester and Buffalo weren't even around. Well, they were around as villages, but we think of them as central points right now. But back then, 200 years ago, it was Geneva and Canandaigua. So those are very interesting things, and that's why in oral history, like the project that we'll talk about a little bit in the second half of the show, is so important. But right now, let's just take a quick break, and we'll be right back with this. Through the mists of time, nature and man have both created and buried treasures beyond the imagination. With the ages, these riches slowly dissolve into mere myths until they are forever forgotten. But there are those brave souls who tirelessly cling to the truth, ever seeking to discover the undiscovered, to reveal what has always been there, to uncover the hidden gems of a land thought forsaken but loved by millions. "50 Hidden Gems of Greater Western New York. Discover the secrets in your own backyard." Buy your copy now at 50hiddengems.com. Well, welcome back to the State of Greater Western New York report. Kathy just had to take a moment to go away, but maybe Jordyn, you can... Oh, there's Kathy. She's back again. Hey! Well, surprise. The event. Let's talk about the event, the Italian American Heritage Day. And let's just start with maybe talking about, and I'll pull it up on the screen here, talking about what is going on, when it's happening. I know people can read it, but Kathy, why don't you go ahead and take the lead on this and just tell us a little bit about when the event is right now this year.
Okay. Joe just came, and he will be on screen in a couple of minutes. So, Chris, if you want to turn that screen back on, that would be great.
I got it.
Why that's important, okay, is that Joe is in charge of our entertainment schedule. So if we could let him get a breath, we could, if you scroll up, I'll go ahead and talk about the things underneath the entertainment. So keep going, and I'll let Joe talk about our performance stage. So we added some new sections this year. You can stop right there. One of them is called Il Circolo Sportivo, and it's going to be sports and games. And last year, people started to leave just around 1 because the Bills game was on. Nothing we could do about the Bills game, so we're showing it. So in the sports circle, there'll be an emphasis on Italian sports up until 1 o'clock when the Bills game will go on. We also have Cugini di ROC Cafe, which is where we'll be serving espresso, pastries, and also having a stage for short storytelling, and hopefully convincing people who are telling those short stories to walk across the way to the oral history area.
Whoops.
And then, so those are 2 new areas, and we're really, really excited about those because people have asked for, let's do storytelling in a more intimate, quiet space than we did last year. Of course, we have children's activities. We had that last year. We're going to be doing a lot of chalking, cramming, storytelling. We have books in Italian and about Italy for children. So lots going on there. And then we have a painter from Rock Paint and Sip who is coming in to paint what we're calling Italian neighborhoods. Because when Italians meet each other, they ask 2 things. Where is your family from in Italy? But also, where did you grow up, or where did your family originate in Rochester? So neighborhoods become like our little villages almost. Once we know the little neighborhood, we know more about you. So you'll see down below, we're getting espresso coffee, forno Tony's providing the pastries. So down below that, and maybe I'll turn that over to Jordyn for a minute until Joe gets his breath here, to tell a little bit about the gesturing booth, maybe about the language booth, and about the oral histories. And then well, you know what, Jordyn? I'll start with origin and migration, then turn the rest over to you. Origin and migration is such an exciting booth because we have maps of both Italy and the US, and people go up and they put a pin on where their families are from in Italy, and then where they came in the US. After they do that, they're invited to then do this form, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's got the same thing, the two maps. They put that on the form. They put their family's name. We take a picture, and then they write a story about their family's migration. The archivist in Rochester loves this so much. She's working on a big project to get funding to get these all published. So that's a really wonderful thing that goes on at one of our booths. Jordyn, can you explain the other ones?
Okay, the next one we have is language. I believe we'll be having like a conversation table in a way, for people to practice their Italian language and also to learn more about Italian. And then genealogy, ancestry and genealogy is a cool booth for, I think, like people can, like, in similar to the origin and migration, talk more about their ancestors. And I think there'll be like resources from the Rochester Genealogical Society, as well as some other organizations in Rochester to have some connections for guests to learn more about their family history. And then the gesturing booth is pretty fun. We have a bunch of different gesturing cards where people can just like have a fun conversation and guess what these different Italian gestures mean. And we'll have more resources to learn more about like different regions of Italy, different regional languages. There's also like different hand gestures that's different than Italian Sign Language. It's a whole different means of communication. And then we also have the oral history booth, which is in collaboration with Nazareth University, RIT, and the Rochester Public Library. So essentially we have projects where we're collecting and preserving the oral histories of the Italian American community in Rochester. They tell us like essentially their life story, family history, and as much as it is a like historical record, it's also a linguistic record. We encourage people to talk in Italian or their regional language if they're bilingual in that. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to see all the people come together because we've had a lot of feedback where the culture and heritage is like the heart of the event and brings a lot of people together. So it should be pretty cool.
I think here's an example of that origin migration booth that I think you were talking about, Kathy, that tell people what you do with this map.
So this map sits side by side a U.S. map, and then people come over, and if you could see, there's little flags all over the map, and that's people coming up and pinpointing the exact location that their families are from. And then many of us had multiple migrations because we came in, like from my family, a lot of people from Cerro de Falco, by the way. I don't know, Chris, if you have this, but we're sulfur miners in Italy. This is a history I didn't know. And when you talked about those oral histories as being important, my grandparents could not read or write in English or Italian. They were illiterate, they were not given the opportunity to go to school. So there was nothing passed down in writing. So these oral histories are critical, and it's always it's made me a little sad that I didn't really ever have their voices. So I just want to say, when they came into the U.S. as, workers. They were coal miners because of their skill in mining sulfur in Italy from those regions, that region of Caltanissetta. And so many of, at least the families I've come in contact with who came in as coal miners wound up in Pennsylvania first. So our second migration was Rochester. So this is a conversation that can be had at that booth where people talk about, so where did we come to in the US? And then where did we go after that first stop, and why did we come into these areas? So it's a rich conversation, and piecing it together allows us to have those stories that we didn't have before.
All right, well, let's head back to where we were before. Oh, wait. Let's make magic happen. Da-da-da. There's Joe.
There he is.
Hey, Joe, how you doing? Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Chris.
So, Joe, I gave everybody else a chance to tell us a little bit about themselves, like what part of Italy they came from and how they got involved. Give us a quick 1-2 on that, and then talk to us a little bit about the entertainment aspect of the event, and I'll pull the screen back up when we do that.
Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Joe, and my background would be Italian and Sicilian American. And I grew up in Rochester, and my migration story, as far as my family goes, is that I'm second or third generation Italian American. And my family came after the turn of the century, like a lot of people, and made their way through New York and to Rochester for finding jobs and connecting with people that were already here. And so fast forward, grew up Italian American, and I was surrounded by a mix of people, but I did grow up with a lot of Italian Americans as well in the culture and very familiar with it. And as far as how I got here, I met Chaffee through some other organizing and things like being an activist in Rochester. And we found a lot of commonalities in how we felt about that. I would say for the festival specifically, our entertainment, we have music that's back. We have Michael Sidoti that's back from last year, who plays mostly the Italian American fare that a lot of people are familiar with. Also plays dance music, and is going to mix in some other Italian music that's a little more popular in Italy and Sicily. And we have our opera singers too that are coming through, that are going to be showcasing Mark Daniels, who will be doing a duet now with Jessica Best. We have, and who is renowned as well in Rochester and abroad too, as an accomplished opera singer. And we have the Rock City Singers, who were founded by Judith Renaletta, who has been wonderful for us in trying to coordinate a music program. She has either taught or worked with many of the people that are the opera singers, and contributed a lot. Her students went on to Broadway. So her Rock City Singers are young kids who are coming in to sing. There's about 25 to 30 kids sing and dance, and it's been played through different parts of. It's actually within a little over 10 years ago, they were invited to the London Olympics. So they've had a lot of success in that. It sounds like they've traveled around the world too and doing that. And Judith's very proud of that. We also have opera singer Nick Novellin, and we also have Jesse Kime as well. So we will be doing the majority of the opera singing will be a couple singers more towards the middle of the event, and then closed out by Michael Sidoti, who will be playing the Tarantella a couple times throughout the day. That was something that people wanted to see from last year. And it was a fun thing to have some of our group lead the way through that and do that and get a lot of the crowd involved, and also get people kind of dancing and things like that towards the second half of the fest, or later half of the festival, after they've eaten and talked to everybody and seen everything and walked around. So I'm happy to be doing this again this year, and I'm happy to be a part of everybody that's putting on, and thanking Chaffee for being the backbone, the driving force, and putting this together. And I thank Jordyn for all Jordyn's hard work. Jordyn's been involved in the last couple of years with coordinating language and culture and the history of that. So very thankful of that. And of course, from Nazareth, Casa Italiana, their contribution to this, them and RIT both.
All right, thanks, Joe. And just we want to remind everyone that the Italian Heritage Day in Rochester is Sunday, October 6th from 11 a.m. through 4 p.m. It's free. There's no admission, and there's no admission charge. Obviously, there is admission. But the event will be taking place at the Rochester Public Market, and it's a fun time to have. There's a lot of places to go, people to see, booths to participate in. And if you want more information on it, you can just go to their website, which is right here, rockitalians.org, and that will have a little thing up top. I've been showing you that website. That'll give you more information on this year's event, as well as more information on the organization itself. Well, folks, thank you all for being here, both our guests as well as our listeners. Remember, if you want to be a part of the live audience, which is the only way to ask questions of our guests, then go to stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com. Just scroll down the menu there and register for free. It doesn't cost you anything. Get you on our list. And on our list every Thursday, we'll send out this secret special link that allows you to watch this show live and ask questions of the guests if you like. It's the only way to ask questions. I understand that a lot of people work, and so noon on Thursdays isn't a good time to break away and watch something live, but you could go to our website, stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com, and watch this show in the archives, or you can like our Facebook page or subscribe to our YouTube channel, and both of those will rebroadcast the shows every Sunday at 1 p.m. Again, thank you all for being here, and have fun at your event. I'll unfortunately be out of town, so I won't be there, but I'll be there in spirit. How about that? So thanks again, and thank you all for being here. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks.
Thank you.